This is a presentation of ICMA's bond market, mind map, and ecosystem. You will see in front of you the end product, but let me walk you through it step by step. If printed, please remember to use A3 format or larger. At the center of it all is the bond lifecycle. The upper blue box captures investing and trading activities, including primary and secondary markets. The lower blue box includes post-trading activities, clearing and settlement. The purple box highlights market infrastructure. Issuance is the creation of a bond in the primary markets. It is referred to as a sovereign bond if issued by a public sector entity, or a corporate bond if issued by a private sector company or financial institution. Once issued, the bond instrument can be traded, i.e. bought and sold on the secondary markets, for example on an exchange or bilaterally. Repo and collateral activities are a core function to ensure liquidity in the markets. Afterwards, the bond goes through the clearing and settlement process, which are the so-called post-trading activities. Clearing is the process of delivering cash versus payments by the trading party, and in the bond market, this is mostly done bilaterally, but can take place centrally via CCP. Settlement is the transfer of legal title from the seller to the buyer within a central securities depository CSD. To the right side of the bond lifecycle is a list of the main players of the bond market. The actors access the value chain at different stages of the bond lifecycle. The soft copy is interlinked with ICMA's member committees. The value chain begins with the issuers. They can be either private sector corporates and financial institutions or public sector agencies like governments or public agencies like the European Investment Bank EIB. Investors buy bonds either in the primary or secondary market and are so-called the buy side. There are two basic types of investors, retail investors and institutional investors. And there are many institutional investor types in the private sector, such as asset managers, traditional mutual funds, non-traditional or alternative hedge funds, pension funds, and insurance companies, as well as in the public sector like sovereign debt management offices, central banks, and sovereign wealth funds. Intermediaries provide various enabling functions for issuers and investors, including the syndication, i.e. underwriting of bonds. Broker-dealers and investment banks' key activities is trading in secondary markets, representing the sell side. Market infrastructures include trading venues, CCPs, and CSDs. They typically act as central type utilities. The two ICSDs, international CSDs, differ from other CSDs as they hold the duopoly of the international Eurobond market. Vendors and service providers offer a range of services. They include, for example, credit rating agencies, data providers, vendor platforms, professional services firms specialized, for example, in the law, accounting, auditing, or consulting. To the left of the bond life cycle are some key policy themes. We've selected 3 of them, including resilience, efficiency, and competitiveness. There are many more, of course. This is just to highlight the 3 themes to aim to A. ensure the stability of the financial system and the safety of individual actors, B. design operationally sound and effective markets, and 3. promote the financing and economic growth through competitiveness. Policy developments play a key role in this ecosystem as they represent a decisive factor in the design of financial products, their distribution to investors, market operations, as well as the interaction and relationship among market players overall in the ecosystem. Now, we come to the section of legal and documentation. There is a selection on the chart of voluntary international standardized legal and documentation agreements. They serve to increase safe and sound global bond markets to ensure that all actors adhere to the same terms and conditions within the ecosystem. Now we turn to part 2 of the chart, the mind map surrounding the ecosystem. So, the individual themes around the ecosystem are also a selection of key developments impacting the global bond market. It starts on the left side with market practice. The chart in the dark blue box illustrates the market practice and regulatory policy themes. The vertical reflects the bond life cycle process with a focus on issuance, primary markets, trading, secondary markets, and repo and collateral and some post-trading themes. This includes the revitalization of the securitization market in the primary box and bond market transparency and liquidity in the secondary markets box and best practices in repo and collateral. Key themes include possible central clearing policies and the shortening of the settlement cycle to T+1. A major rationale for policy initiatives in this context is the protection of the markets and its actors. Across the bottom, there are two cross-cutting themes. To the left, in red, fintech and digital, and to the right, sustainable finance. Fintech and digitalization initiatives are illustrated in the red box under three categories: regulatory initiatives, second, standards and best practices, and third, public policies. These include recent initiatives, for example, in artificial intelligence, bond data taxonomy, and digital bonds. To the right in the green box is sustainable finance. Also categorized in three boxes: the regulatory initiatives, standards and best practices, and public policy again. A small selection of the many initiatives in these areas are highlighted here on this chart, including, for example, the recent ICMA guidelines on fund names, secondly, green, social, sustainability and sustainability-linked bond principles, and third, global intergovernmental policy agreements like the Paris Agreement, for example. To the right side, in the light blue box, is a list of strategic policy goals. They are illustrated in three different boxes. It starts on the top right with the capacity building, followed by capital markets and asset management, and third, by instruments and product types. Now, capacity building is very broadly defined and comprises a wide range of initiatives from building skills, networking, transferring knowledge from developed to frontier markets. The capital markets and asset management framework, like the EU CMU, the future EU SIU, and NBFI, etc., are essential to mobilize cash deposits into capital markets and incentivizing retail and institutional savings and investments into sustainable corporates and projects. These strategic policy tools support the achievement of the wider macro objectives. In summary, the visual arrangements of the mind map are arranged so that on the left and left bottom side, the chart focuses more on operational control, reliability, and innovative technology, so the technical market functioning aspects, protecting market systems and its actors. And to the right and the bottom right of the chart focuses more on strategic aspects, the financing of the economic transition and ways to stimulate economic growth. These initiatives, however, are highly interlinked and not restricted to their individual boxes. For example, sustainable repo connects with the repo initiative on the left side with the finance agenda on the bottom right side. And another example is the securitization in the primary market box on the top left, which connects with both the asset management capital markets objective on the right within the CMU, but also there is an aspect of green securitization that links to the green sustainable finance box. So the capacity building initiatives are embedded across all activities of the mind map. And also another example is that sustainable finance is believed to be best enabled through fintech and digitalization innovation. Now, at the center of the smooth functioning of capital markets and achieving proper policy is obtaining and using accurate data. Data is a key driver to these activities of markets in terms of liquidity and stability, products and pricing, the players, resilience, and the policies overall, like what's the business case of regulation, should be based on data. In order to identify the right data in the debt capital markets, the diamond-shaped figure highlights some important aspects. For example, data integrity and quality is important, it should be comparable, it should be consistent terminology, etc. Now, what is most important and the underlying foundation of all of the above initiatives and objectives is knowledge. And knowledge can be achieved through professional training and investor education, as you can see in the bottom yellow box. So on the left, it illustrates the ICMA executive training courses and certifications for professionals in the bond markets. And on the right side, it's highlighted the public policy aspect to it. So it includes the education of bond issuers, bond investors, but also has resources to financial literacy. Now, in conclusion, I very much hope that you like it. Remember to print it, please, at least in an A3 poster chart size, if on paper. And please remember that this is an educational tool to generate discussion, and it just provides a snapshot of some of the key aspects in the bond markets. We would be very delighted to exchange views on these initiatives, and thank you for watching.